Kids are experimenters, and they will try different things, and they will take things apart. And if they can take that door off, well, they're going to do it.
Right.
And our staff will walk up and say, well, gosh, that wasn't quite what we intended from that exhibit. But all right, there it is. Like, you learned how much force it takes to rip that off the hinges. And that whole project will be wrapped up by the end of next year, of 2025.
That was my next question. This is a lot.
Laura Burton, Director of Marketing for the Kansas Discovery Center, Children's Discovery Center.
You got it.
Boom, let's go.
There it is.
Welcome
Being
to
here.
Topeka Insider.
I am so excited to be here. I am, because of course I've listened to the episodes, and
That's
so
right.
being able to be here in the studio is really exciting.
Wow.
And I love everything that you guys are doing on the podcast.
Oh, thank you so
I'm kind of
much.
excited right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Thanks for being here.
It's great.
Yeah, well, my family and kids have gone to the Discovery Center many times, so we were very excited. My kids, I just told them before this, hey, we're having somebody from the Discovery on. And they're like, oh my gosh, like ask about this and this and this. And so we're very excited to have you on as well.
We're gonna get your kids the inside scoop right here.
Let's go.
I'm gonna share all sorts of things. You'll be able to go back to them and say, I know what's coming up at the Discovery Center.
Absolutely.
And they're gonna be pumped.
Yes, I'm so excited. So maybe just give us maybe personal backstory. Like, how did you come to direct marketing at
at a children's museum? Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I have spent my whole career now in nonprofit marketing,
Wow.
mostly here in Topeka. I'm a Topeka transplant, came here to attend Washburn
That's right.
University.
Topeka transplant for the win. Let's go.
Absolutely. You know, I love our community like somebody who has come into it and
Yes.
sees it from an outside perspective and
100%.
can enjoy that. So came here for that and worked in different nonprofit organizations, worked at the YWCA for a long time, worked at Midland Care for a long time, and then was able to come to the Discovery Center about 7 years ago now.
Cool.
I first came there as a mom. So before I was working there, I went, and the first time I walked
like with
into
your kids?
with my kids.
Oh, cool.
fun.
Yes. So the first time I came to the Discovery Center, my daughter, who is now 10, was about 6 months old, and I was completely overwhelmed as a new mom, and it was a lot. You know, I was spending
Yeah.
a lot of time at that point trying to be a working mother, trying to take care of whatever, and I was somebody with a lot of family support system, but having babies is tough. Having kids is tough. And I know that I was so into like the social media scrolling and this idea that I needed to have this aesthetically beautiful playroom for my child and
goodness.
know
Oh, my
everything
goodness.
about how to help her grow and be wonderful and perfect.
Yes.
Felt all this pressure for that.
100%. Yeah.
And I walked into the Discovery Center and I found this environment that was just made for her, right? And so in the infant area at the Discovery Center, which is where I was at the time, with the mats and the colors and the toys and all of these little tidbits on the walls about why my daughter was developing the way she was and why she played the way she was. And it completely clicked for me
Wow.
that me as an individual mom did not need to create the perfect educational play environment for my child because our community has created that for all of our kids. And I loved it from the word go.
That's awesome.
So went there a lot as a visitor for a few years before having the opportunity to come on doing marketing, fundraising, creative stuff. Since then have gotten into a lot of the exhibit design pieces of it. It has been an absolutely amazing 7 years and it's going to continue to be amazing. It's a great place.
That's
Super
awesome
fun.
to have basically like a fan like
Yes.
become your marketing person, like specifically your marketing person.
Yes.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're not just like some stranger they hired off the internet from, Texas. Like you're a true fan who experiences
strangers on
for
the
yourself.
internet. Like
Yeah.
you got to watch them for your
Exactly.
marketing needs.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. It did give me a different perspective on the ability to come in and say, okay, this is the kind of thing I enjoyed as a parent or a caregiver.
Yeah.
And of course, when I was coming in as a parent, I did not know about the Children's Museum movement, the research around educational play, all of the stuff that have become a big part of my learning curve over the last 7 years, like the big deal stuff. All I knew is I felt good when I was there and I felt supported when I was there. And so the neat thing about being on the other side of it now is you get to see a bit how all the magic happens
Right.
and why
Yeah.
all the magic happens. And all of the thinking that goes into creating that space that I think is kind of behind the scenes for parents who are coming in and saying, well, this is fun, right? This is a really
Yeah.
cool
That's
place.
awesome.
So let me ask you this. Kansas Children's Museum.
Yeah, Kansas Children's Discovery Center is the name of the organization.
Okay.
And you'll hear us called Discovery Center oftentimes.
Sure,
that's
right,
fine too. But we are a children's museum. That's what we are.
That's what I was
So we're
gonna ask
part of a
about, too.
network of 200 different children's museums all around the world. And we have the opportunity to work with those museums and learn from them. Probably our closest partner, Wonderscope in Kansas City, is another children's museum.
Okay.
There's one in St. Louis, the Magic House that many people have been to, Lincoln.
Okay.
So there are a few others regionally. And then, of course, all around the world, there are lots of different ones doing amazing things. So we get the chance to work with those organizations and bring all of their good ideas to Topeka.
Yeah.
And there's a network that you're in with all of those children's museums.
Yes, the Association of Children's Museums. That's the network we're in. And so if people are members at our Discovery Center, if they are members at a certain level, they have reciprocal benefits at other children's museums, which is really cool. So if you're a family that travels a lot, that's a great investment to make, because then you're saving 50% when you go to those other places and check out those other museums, which is really fun.
Yeah.
We're all a little bit different. We're all a little bit unique. We highlight and showcase our communities in different ways.
Cool.
So a lot of family travelers look for that and enjoy that. And so that network is great for our visitors. It's also great for us because we can learn from them.
Right.
And so, I go to the conference every year. You get the chance to sit down with other children's museums and say, okay, how are you accomplishing this? And sometimes it's a really simple materials question, like, okay, I want to build this thing.
Right.
But of course, kids need to be able to bite it, or whatever. Working at a museum, you have to do a lot of really creative problem solving to make a play environment that is safe and healthy and positive for kids. So there are a lot of just weird problems we have to solve. And being a part of those networks is really fantastic.
I bet.
Wow.
So let me ask you this, spoken like someone who has never been or doesn't have children.
Yes.
They would actually be concerned if you went.
Yes, they would. They'd be like, this guy
doesn't have kids. Why is he here?
Why on earth is he here?
It's true. You have to have a child to come to the Discovery Center. So you'd have to either have one or borrow one, right?
Borrow one.
Yes, absolutely.
What is a children's museum?
Yeah. So when you walk in the door, what you notice right away is there are a lot of different types of things for kids to play with and enjoy. So inside the Discovery Center, there are 15,000 square feet. Those 15,000 square feet indoors are dedicated all to educational play. So there is a spot where kids talk about science and learn about that. There's a giant light bright in that experience with mirrors across from it, where you're putting in different colored pegs and you're looking at colors, you're comparing, contrasting. There are wind tubes in that area. So you're putting these scarves into these wind tubes and manipulating the flow of wind to see what happens.
My personal favorite part.
I love that one, right? The Bernoulli blower, where you're actually getting beach balls to float using the power of the Bernoulli effect, which is air pressure. So you're experimenting with different concepts in science, but you're doing it through play. And that's the type of learning that you see integrated throughout the museum. So we have a dramatic play area where there is like a pretend hospital, a cafe, a mechanics shop. We have a building
Grocery
area.
store.
Yes, where kids are doing engineering, the grocery store where they're running that. Art, which is one of my favorite experiences in the museum, which is essentially a big glass house where kids can paint on the windows. So they actually get to mix colors and paint with their hands and paintbrushes and do those kinds of things. There is a Kansas grain elevator experience where they get to move these little plastic pellets through a realistic experience using real augers, levers, and pulleys. So you see a lot of this cause and effect stuff. You see a lot of things that are fun for kids, but get them curious, get them asking questions, and get them experimenting. And then once you leave the doors, we have 4.5 acres outside. And outside, you have a lot of similar components, things that encourage experimentation, a dinosaur digging experience, a pond and stream, treehouse, pirate ship,
The
right?
pirate ship.
Okay.
Isn't the pirate ship so fun?
My kid's personal favorite, yeah.
So it's everything that you get excited about as a kid, but the learning is kind of sneaky, right?
Yeah,
the learning is underneath, and there is learning and there is engagement integrated into every single part of the experience. So the reason we call it a children's museum, and what makes that a little different than a traditional museum is you might learn things at a museum, right? And maybe you might even interact at a museum. You might be able to push a button and hear a recording and do those kinds of things, but it's not really open-ended in the same way. There's usually a specific learning objective. I walk up to an exhibit, I'm going to push the button, I'm going to get the information that I need to learn from the exhibit.
Yeah.
That's all really valuable. That's fine as a way to teach children and grownups. A children's museum says, I'm going to create an experience where you can do any number of different things. And who knows what you're going to learn from that? You're going to learn what is interesting to you and what is compelling to you, and you determine the path of your own learning. So that's that bigger philosophy that goes into how we build stuff.
It basically sounds like an adult museum museum or a regular museum, one that I would be allowed to go in. You're not supposed to touch anything.
There you go.
But
There's
a children's
that too.
museum, you can push buttons, do things. It's interactive. That seems like there's more of a physical side to it too.
Absolutely. Everything is stuff you touch with. Everything is stuff that you play with. Everything is designed for kids to get messy and experiment and try out different things. That's part of why we have so many design challenges, right?
Sure.
Because kids are experimenters and they will try different things and they will take things apart. And if they can take that door off, well, they're going to do it.
Right.
And our staff will walk up and say, well, gosh, that wasn't quite what we intended from that exhibit. But all right, there it is. Like, you learned how much force it takes to rip that off the hinges. Okay. Now we know.
Yeah.
Build, test, improve, right? The engineering design process is a huge part of what we do. We want kiddos to try things and experiment with things. We encourage kids and grownups to fail safely. It's okay to try something that is hard. It's okay to try something and not get it right the first time. It's okay when your tower falls over. Your next tower is not going to have that same weakness, right? So all of those things go into the experience. And yes, everything's got to be touched.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 6-year-old and I have a 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old. And especially the 6-year-old firstborn, classic kind of stereotypical firstborn, wants to make sure everything is perfect before he tries it, you know? And so the thing we're working on with him is, hey, you can do hard things. You can do hard things. Like, you can try things even though if you don't know you're going to be good at it yet, Yes. And I think the Discovery Center has been one of those things where it's like, hey, just go get your hands dirty. Go try stuff. Go just mix yourself up in this stuff and do it and have a good time and see what happens, That
is exactly the kind of conversation that we want caregivers having. Absolutely. Yes. When I talk about that engineering design process, the build, test, improve, well, a key part of that is the improve. If you test and it's perfect, right? There's no room for that.
Right.
And in the real world, engineers are doing that all the time. They're building and testing and they're trying new things and they're constantly improving that. Failure is a part of that process.
Right.
And so it is really important that kids do things that are hard for them and that they can't always be successful at the first time because that'll let them try again. That's hard as a parent. To watch your child be frustrated is very difficult. And we have a particular field trip at the Discovery Center. We have 10,000 field trip students a year, by the way, who come through the museum. Yes. And so we have a really cool field trip experience called Build, Roll, Engineer, where kids get to build these roller coasters. Okay. And they get to use these rubber tracks and they get to send balls down the rubber tracks and create loops and hills and overcome engineering challenges. One of the rules is that parents can't help. Parents are intentionally given seats. They're told they need to sit on one side of the room and parents are not allowed to help. And they have the best intentions, right? Especially if you see a kid start to get frustrated or maybe even a little bit teary. It is really hard as a parent to not want to go up and rescue and say, well, what about this, right? But when kids Overcome that, the feeling of pride they experience is so impactful for their learning. So yeah, sometimes as a parent, we have to sit on our hands a little. That's hard.
Absolutely.
So as the marketing director of the Kansas Children's Discovery Center, nailed it. It seems like you can just tell you're passionate about this.
Right.
You love it.
I do.
And it feels like that would be an easy thing for you to go to work every day as much as you love what you do. Is that accurate?
It's a very fun place to work. And, I'm not going to say we don't have some hard days, but I want to be one of those people who says, oh, it's not as fun to work at the Discovery Center as you'd think it would be.
Right.
It is absolutely as fun as you would think it would be. It's a blast. Yes, I get to build towers. Yes, I get to dress as a shark. Yes, I get to problem solve just weird things with a team of people that is also really committed to this idea of like build, test, improve. We make mistakes. We do things better. It's a really cool working environment. Obviously a family-friendly working environment, which one would expect, but it is a lot of fun. And you get to see kids just light up and learn new things and have the wonderful experiences. And that is fantastic. When you're walking out on the museum floor and you see a kid with what we call the I did it face, right? Yeah. It's putting the top block on that tower and taking those 2 steps back and looking at it and saying, this time it didn't fall. That is so cool to see. So yes, I love it. It's every day is wonderful there.
Are you actually out on the floor a lot, like problem solving and stuff? Like
oftentimes, yes, especially on the exhibit design side. So because part of my job doing marketing stuff, I came into the Discovery Center with a bit of that art background that I'd had from doing graphic work and other things.
Yeah.
That's now gone into exhibit design. And so a lot of what I have to do to create really good, compelling exhibits for kids is watch them play. And that's how we learn. So our lemonade stand's actually an interesting example of that. Years ago, we have a lemonade stand at the Discovery Center. I know you've seen it because it's one of our most popular things to photograph. We used to have it as part of a larger financial literacy exhibit, and it had a computer screen on it. And on the computer screen, you could do a little computerized lemonade stand game. Well, that was okay. But what we found was that often kids would ignore the computer screen, and they would actually shove all of their toys to the side of the computer screen, and they would want to play pretend lemonade stand without that screen there. So we chopped off the screen, and we put pretend lemons and pitchers and cups and those kinds of things. Well, then we saw a bunch of kids over there trying really hard to squeeze the lemons, and they were hard pretend lemons, right? And they wanted to squeeze them and pretend to make lemonade, which is great fine motor development for kids. Yeah. So we had to find squeezy lemons. And of course, then you had to find squeezy lemons that you can safely bite into without it becoming a choking hazard for kids. So that's how I, as director of marketer, ended up in my office biting into pretend lemons to make sure we had them that they were squishy enough, also biteable, also safe. And a vendor can tell you that you can take a bite out of something, but I don't trust that.
Right. Yeah.
So I've got to do it myself. So yes, it's an ongoing process. We're always improving, and we're always watching how kids play, because kids are the ones we get our ideas from, and they're the ones who can tell us how we can make it better.
So yeah, that's it. That's amazing, because when I heard, oh, you're director of marketing, I just thought, oh, you do the website, you do some like social media stuff, but you're like actually helping create the stuff that kids are interacting with.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And we try to do as much as we can. Increasingly, we're trying to do a lot of that local, because we're trying to tell that local story, right? So for me as a Topekan, that means that when we're bringing in a water table experience, which we're going to be bringing in this summer, by the way, that's one of the things your kids will be very excited about. I don't want that to just be a water table. I want that to tell the story of Topeka as a city that was built on the river and why Topeka was built on the river. I want it to tell the story about underground water in the state of Kansas and aquifers and what those are and how important they are for our state's agriculture. I wanted to tell the story of how in eastern Kansas, a lot of our water is coming from rain, and in western Kansas, it's underground, and how that matters for the history and ecology of our state. I want it to do all of that stuff. So that means we have to have local perspectives. We have to have local artists. We have to have people coordinating that who can tell our local story, because ultimately our children's museum is how we introduce kids to our community. It's how we make them proud to be a Topekan, proud to be a Kansan. It's a part of our work, and it's a part of our goal. So that ends up being a big part of my work too.
So where do you get all this stuff? Like for instance, like the mechanic thing. Like I assumed, and I walk in there knowing absolutely nothing about, how all this works. I assume like, oh, there's like maybe like kits online you just get for all of this stuff somehow.
The play car kit. Yes. If only. There are some of those things.
But it sounds like you're like building it kind of yourself, a lot of stuff.
It's a mixture. So some of the things, that car, for example, was built by another children's museum, right? That has a larger fabrication shop than we do. So some of those things we're able to buy from other museums or museum exhibit fabricators and bring in. The other things we really do build ourselves. The pirate ship, for example, that pirate ship was built on site by volunteers. And we're talking about those who have not been to the Discovery Center. I don't mean a small pirate ship. I mean a life-size pirate ship. It is huge. It is outside. And that was all built on site with our incredibly skilled carpenter, facilities manager, Drake Carver, and a group of volunteers. So it varies. And then a lot of things are kind of a mixture. So the water table is a good example of that. The water table itself, we are going to purchase from a vendor, because that's a very difficult thing to engineer. And we want something that'll really last and work well. But all of the educational components we are designing. So the graphics that surround it, the information, the story it's telling, we are developing that as a museum and working with partners like Kansas Geological Survey and Friends of the Kaw to bring in other sources of information.
But if you have to like modify something, you have a shop that can do stuff like that?
Well, you ask a great question, because in the past, no, we have not had much of a shop that could do that. And so Drake, who's our carpenter, has been building things outside on the back patio at the Discovery Center for the entire 13 years we've been in operation.
Like when you get some kit from a vendor, he's putting it together.
Putting it together outside or on Mondays when we're not open to the public, that kind of stuff. That is a big part of the reason, that and other things, for the expansion that we just launched.
What expansion are you launching?
What a great question. So,
softball.
I really I love a good softball. That's great. But also this is exciting. So Building Discovery is an expansion that is going to double the size of our children's museum. It's currently 15,000 square feet. It's going to be 30,000 square feet.
Amazing. Holy moly.
Wow.
So it's a massive undertaking for us. And it is funded by different folks, generous businesses and individuals in the community, Gage Park Improvement Authority sales tax dollars that Shawnee County voters voted in support of 2 years ago. And it's going to not only add space to the museum, but add some really great exhibit experiences. So you have 2 large exhibits spaces that are going to be a part of that. The Sunflower Gallery, which tells the story of our environment in the state of Kansas, tells the story of how a sunflower seed becomes a sunflower, and has all kinds of learning along the way. So kids are learning about wind power and water and osmosis. The anchor of that gallery is going to be the world's tallest climbable sunflower. It's more than 2 stories tall, and kids are going to get the opportunity to climb up it, which I'm so excited for.
That's awesome.
Should be a great tourism draw too.
Yeah.
Then right next to that, you have what we're calling the Kansas Bright Ideas Gallery, which is all about Kansas inventors. And it also will have the chance for kids to share their own ideas for products and inventions, things they have. It has a brand new traveling exhibit gallery space. Right now, we bring in traveling exhibits like the one that we are just about to wrap up, Emotions at Play with Inside Out. The next one will be Thomas Train Engine that's going to be coming on down the track into the Discovery Center.
My son's favorite was the dinos, by the way.
Dinosaurs were amazing because we had real dinosaur eggs. I loved that one. That kind of experience. All 3 of those exhibits I just mentioned had more pieces to them that we had to leave out because we didn't have enough space in our traveling exhibit gallery. Okay. Yeah. The new one will have enough space for us to bring in any exhibit experience from anywhere in the world into Topeka. So we're very excited about those limited opportunity exhibits we can bring in. The expansion also has 3 classrooms. These are indoor-outdoor classrooms. They all have big garage doors that roll up so that kids can actually get outside and inside as they're learning. One has a test kitchen. So think about the power of an indoor-outdoor classroom with a test kitchen where kids can go out to the garden and get tomatoes and bring them in and learn how to fix those things. Wow. Those classrooms will offer school-age childcare, which is something that we have been asked for again and again. Childcare is a really serious issue for Topekans and for Topeka young professionals especially. And so being able to offer school-age childcare that is, again, play-based learning is really powerful. And with those 3 classrooms, we'll have 60 spots for camps, summers, schools out days, lots of exciting things happening there. So really cool stuff with the project. Also does include a workshop, right? Which is how we got started on this. A workshop space, a real live indoor workshop, some health and safety things, a nursing suite, a storm shelter, a sensory friendly space, some other smaller things that are important and critical to us remaining accessible as a museum. So lots of great things happening there. And that whole project will be wrapped up by the end of next year of 2025.
That was my next question. This is a lot.
It's a lot.
How long that would take. So in
by the
2025?
end of next year.
Yes.
So it's not really that long.
Yeah. It's not that long. It is a very, very aggressive schedule for construction.
Sure.
So we're excited about it.
The zoo is adding something, but they said it'll be like 5 years. So we're like, dang it, 5 years. But it's 1 year. This will hold us over. This will be.
The zoo is a wonderful partner. So I'm not going to say anything about that timeline because they are wonderful to us and great for us to work with. But
we're excited. We're just, it can't be here soon enough because we heard there's penguins
on the way.
That's the rumor. I know. I'm excited about that too.
She said it on air, so I feel like it's safe.
It is safe to say. Absolutely. Thank you, Shanna. So wonderful things. Is the construction that's going to be happening, is that going to limit anything that's currently going on? Or are you guys going to be fully open still?
Fully open.
Okay.
So there are a few things. People have already seen a few of those things. For example, we're not going to be able to do birthday parties for the duration of the construction because we've lost our program room, right? Sure. That's turning into a maker space. Very exciting, but we're not going to have the chance to do some of those other things. There are just like some limited restroom access things sometimes. Like one of our family restrooms is closed. The other one, of course, remains open. So a few small things like that, but we will never need to close. We'll be open throughout construction. So that's folks should come on by. And bonus, there's big trucks. And that's practically another exhibit for us,
yes,
right?
So true. Excavators, oh my gosh.
You get a cement mixer out there with a group of 4-year-olds. And
100%.
That's the best day ever. Yeah. Our whole construction crew from Crossland, they're like rock stars out there driving diggers. It is so cool.
So for someone who hasn't been, doesn't have kids, I don't go, often, clearly. John, you might be able to answer this too. How often are kids and families coming to the Discovery Center? Is it like we go once a summer, it's a great thing to do, every year? Or is it, hey, we go every week, every day? What does that frequency look like? What
is your family at? You guys are every now and again.
We go probably quarterly.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of families. It varies a lot by family. We have a lot of very regular visitors who come every single week. That's pretty common for our members. We have a lot of folks who are dropping in once a year, or when we have special exhibits. That's a big draw for people. That's part of why we bring in those special limited time exhibits because they're
Yeah.
unique, and people will say, oh gosh, I want to get in there before Thomas closes because my kids really like that. So it varies a lot just depending on the family and their situation.
Gotcha. So is it like you go once and you pay to go once? Is it like a membership you can be a part of? How does that work?
Both things are true. So we do have regular admission. Admission at the museum is $9 a person for adults and kids. Infants under 12 months are free. Seniors $1 off. Military 10% off. Those kinds of good things.
What about
But
26?
memberships? If you're 26, you're a grown up. You are an adult, or we sometimes say former child.
Former
right?
child.
Yes,
There we go.
yes.
Yes.
You at one time were one. So that ends up being a really good value for memberships. Because starting at only $109, you can do a membership, and then it's unlimited visits for your family for the whole year.
Oh, great.
But I should mention, and this is a really important and critical part of our work, over 1 in 3 of our visitors every year are coming in with free or reduced admission. So last year, we had 120,000 visitors that came in. 1 in 4 of those were traveling from outside Shawnee County, by the way. So we're a major tourist attraction,
Cool.
economic development,
yeah.
very important for Topeka. And over 50,000 of those were coming in free or reduced.
Wow.
We have almost a dozen programs now that are designed to be able to give families access. So that includes things like Museums for All, where if you have a WIC or an EBT card and you show that at the front desk, your admission becomes $3. It includes programs like Medical Warriors. Medical Warriors is a special program for medically fragile children. So these are kiddos that maybe are awaiting surgery, or they're undergoing cancer treatment, or they're immunocompromised, and they really can't be around crowds, or they have other needs that make them medically fragile where they can't visit when the museum is open. We have free private visits for those families that they can set up during times when the
Wow.
museum is closed.
That's cool.
They can come in and have those experiences. Includes programs like Play Free, which is a collaboration between the Discovery Center and Topeka Correctional Facility. It's a very unique program in which we have children with incarcerated parents actually doing visits with their parents at the Children's Discovery
No
Center
way.
during
Wow.
hours we're closed. We
That's
close for those
awesome.
programs, and kids have the opportunity to come when it's Topeka Correctional Facility. The children will come to the museum, and their mothers will have the chance to meet them, and they get 6-hour-long visits where they get to share 2 meals together, do crafts together, special things like that in a really child-centered environment. When you think about the difference visiting a parent at the Children's Museum versus the prison, that's a really different experience for children. And one of those is
Wow.
really focused on the needs of the kiddos. And so we're very proud to offer that program. That program has actually expanded a lot in the past year. It started as a collaboration with us and Topeka Correctional Facility. And a lot of people said, well, what about dads, right? What about incarcerated dads? And we would love to be able to get everybody to the museum. But of course,
Right.
that's logistically difficult. When we talk about incarcerated men, we're scattered all around the state. So we've been
Sure.
bringing our mobile museum out to community-based settings in Hutchinson, El Dorado, and other
Wow.
places where there are men who are incarcerated. And doing a similar program using the mobile museum, we've been able to get men doing visits with their children as well.
Wow.
We also have a program that's been going out to the juvenile correctional complex here in Topeka. One need that we had really overlooked and not thought of is the fact that there are incarcerated juvenile parents, incarcerated teen parents.
Right.
And so we've been bringing the mobile museum out to the juvenile correctional complex. And as a result of that program, we have had 5 teen dads meet their babies for the first time participating
wow.
in that program. So
Man, wow.
a lot of our work at the museum is talking about not only how do we create this really cool environment and place for our community, but it's asking who are we not serving? What barriers exist to play and engagement and healthy family bonding in our community? And how can we break those barriers down for families? Huge, huge part of our work.
That's
Wow.
amazing. Wow. Man, you're like hitting me right in the, right in the feeler as a parent. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. You know, I think as a parent, we take our kids to the museum, and that's such a normalizing experience for them. You know, my daughter goes to school after she visits the Discovery Center and said, yeah, I went to the Discovery Center with my mom. Well, think about a child who has an incarcerated parent, and that is traumatic to that child in lots of ways we could talk about. But a big piece of it is they don't have those normalizing experiences, and it's really powerful for that child to be able to say, oh yeah, over winter break, I got to hang out with my mom at the Children's Museum too. That means a lot to that child's ability to have normalizing experiences out in their community, in addition to the bonding they get to do with their moms on site at the museum.
Wow.
That's a program we've gotten national recognition for. We presented all over the country about Play Free. We were on CNN as a part of that program a few years ago. I know. It was about 2 seconds on CNN, but I'm gonna take it.
It was still on TV.
It was an excellent 2 seconds on CNN. It was was great. Really, really cool program.
How did you set that up? Like, I imagine the amount of red tape to get something like that set up would be tremendous.
Having Topeka Correctional Facility as a partner was really helpful early on. So the inspiration for the program came from something similar they're doing in New York with Rikers Island. Their program is a little bit different. They have, they're much shorter term visits, and they have the caregivers, the custodial caregivers of the kids stay there during the visits, which is just kind of a different dynamic than we have here. Topeka Correctional Facility already had a program called the Walk Program, which is designed for there to be retreats where parents and mothers, or I'm sorry, children and moms could get out and experience different kinds of things. So that structure was already in place there, and we were able to work within that structure.
Right.
That made it a lot easier.
To be one of the things they could do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that said, Topeka Correctional Facility has had to do a lot of work, right, on their end to make this happen, and they have been supportive of the program in ways that we're very grateful for.
Well, that's cool.
And now the broader Department of Corrections as well. When we talk about the men's prisons, they're also having us redo visiting rooms inside the men's prisons to make those more child-centered.
Wow.
So there's, Department of Corrections has seen the work that we're doing and has put a lot of faith in us in our ability to create these experiences for families that make families stronger and healthier. And we're grateful for that and excited for the opportunity.
So it seems like there is a lot going on.
There's a few things.
Yes, that the public maybe doesn't even sometimes know about.
Yes.
How many people work for the Discovery Center?
7.
7 in here?
Yes, I know.
All full-time?
Full-time. We do have more people than that who are part-time. So we have a lot of folks who work, especially on the museum floor, who are part-time. But yes, 7 full-time staff currently. We are a very lean team. So that's why when you talked about how you were surprised to hear the director of marketing is biting play lemons in my office to make sure they're safe and designing murals and doing those kinds of, that's why.
Yeah.
We're all wearing
a lot of hats.
We all wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
When we expand the building, that'll give us some opportunities to expand our team. We're excited about that for lots of reasons. We have a lot more ideas and there's a lot more need in our community. So we're excited for the opportunities to add to the team. But yeah, not a lot of people, but a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of good work.
So when you think of the Kansas Discovery Center, what parts of the Kansas Discovery Center are you guys killing it? And what are some ways that you're like, I wish we could be more like St. Louis in this way?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because every time I walk into a children's museum, and at this point I've been to dozens all around the country, there's always at least one thing where I think, I wish we had that, right?
Yeah,
that's part of what's neat about the museum community is that everybody sort of has their own thing. So one way, I think probably where we are excelling and doing really amazing stuff is in the access programs, right, that I talked about. I think when it comes to museum access, we always have more work to do, but that is a place that we have been very intentional, and I think we're doing really fantastic work.
Wow. Yeah.
I also think our outdoor space is a huge asset for us. And so, and that's true of Gage Park generally. Gage Park is such a great family tourist attraction.
Incredible. Yeah.
And I think until you have traveled around the country with kids, I don't know if people realize how cool that is, that we have our zoo and that amazing playground and our children's museum and the train and the carousel all in the park. There is adequate parking. There is adequate green space. You're not schlepping a stroller down 8 city blocks to get to where you need to get.
And it's so large that you never feel cramped by all the people that are there. You can have your space and it's amazing.
It is such a gem. Yeah. So the reality of being able to be located there and work with the other Gage Park entities, Shawnee County Parks and Rec and the zoo, that's huge. That's a place we're killing it. Now, in terms of things to improve, we are out of space, right? So that's where Building Discovery comes in. We often hit capacity. We're an organization.
Really?
People used to dream that we would serve 100,000 visitors a year, and we had 120,000 last year, and we have grown every single year except 2020, right?
Sure.
That was a rough year, right? We made it through. Yeah. Other than that, we've grown every year. And so there's more need, and we've got to have some more space, some more physical space. The ability to step into the childcare space is really exciting. And then when I look at other children's museums, I just look at cool stuff they have, right? I've seen some really great gardening programs that I'm excited for us to bring. I'd like for us to bring in people or to be talking to kids who will just have more really interesting creative ideas about things we can add. I think about the Tulsa Children's Museum, for example, that has an entire climbing tunnel built out of packing tape. That's really cool.
Wow.
And I have climbed in it. And yes, it is big enough for an adult. And it's very exciting. And it's slippery. And it's a little weird, but it's also completely fantastic.
Wow.
I don't necessarily need a climbing tunnel built out of tape. It's a lot of maintenance.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I want something that cool and interesting and unique. And that is an idea that is just weird.
Right.
We need more weird ideas. We just need things that are strange and unusual. And I feel like I know I've heard a good idea when I first hear it, and I think we can't do that. That's completely bizarre and off the wall.
Yeah.
And then I start to think about it a little more, and I think, well, maybe we could do that, right? Those things are really exciting to me.
Wow, that reminds me of. Have you read this book, The Power of Moments?
Oh no, I haven't. Tell me.
Oh, it's so good. It's Chip and Dan Heath. I think they write a lot of books kind of in this vein. It's not really like a leadership book. It's I don't know. It's hard to describe, but they tell us. They're basically talking about how do you create like impactful moments in people's lives. So maybe in a corporate culture or in your family or whatever. And they tell a story about this little hotel in LA that is like not a nice hotel. Like it's not like a high level, it's kind of like a motel with the pool in the middle, in the courtyard kind of thing.
What are you saying? That sounds amazing.
Well, right. But like, think like movies,
yes,
where it's kind of like the semi, it's like 2 to 3 star thing, but it's rated 5 stars for like thousands and thousands of people on Google or Yelp or whatever, because they have just leveraged a few small things to make these really high level moments for people. So
they
for
have
instance,
a gimmick.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think there's a bunch of them throughout, but like one that sticks out to me is he mentions they have this phone by the pool, and you just pick up the phone and it automatically calls. It's the popsicle hotline. And so you don't even need to dial a number. You just pick up the phone and they say, do you want grape or cherry or, whatever. And then 5 minutes later, like a bellhop in very nice uniform with a tray and a silver thing, like says, here's your popsicle.
This is legendary.
Yeah.
That's
and
funny.
so they have a few things like that just make like the moment of being there so memorable and so incredible that people are like 5 stars. I will absolutely stay there again, even though it's like really, they don't have the nicest beds. It's not like the nicest place in the world, but it kind of reminds me of that. Like what you're saying about a tape tunnel. You're like, that is memorable. Like people are like, man, they had this crazy thing there that totally made the experience. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I know the Sunflower Climber will have some of that energy. I'm excited about that. But yes, you're exactly right. Those moments, especially I think for family travelers and people who are traveling the country, they want those memorable experiences. We're all getting to a place. I think my experience is not unique. We're all getting to a place where we are kind of overwhelmed by the expectation that raising a child requires a lot of stuff. And you just need to buy more junk that you have to step over and clean, and more towards let's get some experiences that are memorable for our kids. And for families that are thinking that way, I think that's why they like going around to different children's museums. I think that's why they buy the memberships. It's because they want something that's a little bit more lasting than whatever the latest weird toy is that you're going to step on.
It's so true. I mean, and the power of like that experience, especially something that's learning and it's fun and it grows you in some way, is probably better spent than a bunch of toys that are going to be in a storage unit at some point, And it's, we have now our 3rd kid, and we're like, why do we have so many toys?
You're in a river of toys, aren't
it's
you?
insane.
It really, it does feel like I am just like in an ocean of toys.
And we just moved, so we have only brought like 10% of the toys inside. And I'm like, why do we even have the 90% that has not left the box? Like, let's just get rid of that. We don't need it anymore.
But if you do, there's going to be one thing in that box.
It'll be like 2 years from now, like, where's that thing that you bought me? You're like, you mean the one I gave away? Yeah. Oh, man, that's so good. So I have 2 questions. One, I mentioned earlier, I just want to circle back just briefly. Where did you get the lemons? Where did you get the squishy lemons that are chew-proof?
Okay, so we found a fantastic vendor that does stuff for a lot of children's museums. They're not cheap, but they're fantastic. And they actually, when I talk about the testing process, this is how you know they're for real. This particular company tests things out with a team of golden retrievers. So they produce the play food and they throw it out to their troop of golden retrievers who get the opportunity to mouth on it for a while. And if the golden retrievers can't get into it, they know it's safe.
Wow.
Fantastic fantastic strategy.
Wow.
Very enthusiastic. Also, that sounds adorable. And I wish I could be a part of that testing process.
Now, they watched those before you bit into it, right?
One hopes.
It's like,
in hindsight, I should have asked more questions. But yes. So there's a lot of research and just experimenting that goes into a lot of those decisions. It is fun.
That's got to be such a fun job. Like making experimental squishy lemons, and feeding them to golden retrievers.
When you talk about having fun at work, that's it, right? Yeah. That's the same with answering the popsicle hotline. I want to be that guy.
I know. Seriously.
Now, as the marketing director, you do the other stuff as well, social media, website kind of stuff that falls under your...
social, yes, a lot of the content development, those kinds of things. So telling our story in a million different ways.
Right.
As a marketer, and especially a marketer who has been around for a little bit, obviously there's a new platform every other day, right? Yeah. And so you can make yourself crazy as a marketer trying to keep up with the latest and greatest algorithms, or you could just get really good at telling a story and know what you're excited about and passionate about. And I have found that as long as you can do that on any platform and it will be successful. Like if you're doing it well and you're telling a story well and you're consistent and you understand your brand and you understand what you're about, you can be successful on social media without knowing that Facebook this week is giving an algorithm boost to the word celebration. Right?
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Those things will make you crazy as a marketer if you're trying to chase that stuff. And so we try to be present on as many platforms as are practical for us to do so. We try to do a few things and do them well. And, as a marketer, I also find a lot of our success now is just coming through communication that's more one-on-one. Our email newsletter is our best conversion tool, right? Wow. Better even than Facebook or some of the other social stuff, because I can't control how many people are going to see my Facebook post, but I can control whether that email lands in your inbox.
Right.
And I still find a lot of things that feel kind of old-fashioned to a lot of marketers work really well. Flyers work well. Posters work well. Right. Yes.
Like mailers?
Mailers, yes. And also posting things in the museum. And I'm still walking around to Topeka coffee shops and saying, can I put this on your bulletin board? Can I put this on your bulletin board? Those kinds of things can't be overlooked, right? So we have a marketing mix that I think works well for us with a very small budget. We rely on a lot of social, email. And at the end of the day, we're doing our work well. And so people want to hear about us.
So let me ask you this. So if you didn't know, I'm a full-time real estate agent.
That's exciting.
It has its pros and cons. But what I tell people is I'm really just happen to be a marketer that sells homes.
There you go. Exactly.
And so my question is, someone who loves marketing, what is something that marketers are currently doing wrong that you think they could be doing better?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think I referenced it a little bit before with the algorithm chasing, or just getting so overwhelmed in the quantity of platforms or the depth of the metrics that you let that become your work. And so so much of your work and energy, I see this with marketers sometimes, is diving into Facebook analytics or insights and pulling out a jillion different data points and comparing those. And I think there is a lot of value in that if you look at it as part of, again, a larger strategy, but getting lost in the minutia these days, when everything is minutia, is a path to ruin. It will just be exhausting. And it was very different marketing when you pretty much had your TV stations and your newspaper. And as a marketer, it was just your job to pitch that stuff. And you had a couple places to put advertising. And then you could dive into some of that stuff because there weren't 500 different platforms to reach people. Now there are. And so you have to, again, know your brand and know your overall strategy and implement things and be willing to adjust, but not invest too much of your time in digging through things or chasing things. Or I love TikTok. I love TikTok trends. I think that is so fun. I could full time do random trends on TikTok.
I know. Yeah.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
We're on TikTok. We've got a platform there. We'll see if it still exists in a few months. I don't know.
Exactly.
We're there, and we'll put video content on there every now and again, especially if it's something that is simple and easy for us to do. But I'm not investing a ton of my time in something like that if I'm not sure how it's going to convert. And I'm going to be way better off sending a postcard to a member and saying, hey, this is what's going on at the Discovery Center, and we're excited about it, and we think you will be too.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question about, like, you have a team of 7 people and then you're 7 full-time people. And then I'm sure you have a lot of other people that help, like, get things going. But how do you, like, there's a high level of excellence in the museum, but you have 7 people.
Right.
And you're all, I'm sure you're not the only one wearing a lot of hats.
We are all wearing all the hats.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
so how does a team of 7 people keep up the high level of excellence that you're experiencing or building?
Yeah, I think a lot of that has just been, we're a team. Most of us have worked together for a long time. And so we have good working relationships. We have a good working environment. We have a working environment where it's okay to make a mistake. We have a working environment where it is okay to say, oh my gosh, I messed up and I forgot X, Y, or Z. And your coworkers will come in and help support you. And that's not going to be a place where you're getting yelled at and disciplined by a supervisor for making a mistake.
Not breathing down your neck. Yeah.
I think that sort of stuff is really critical and gets overlooked sometimes. That positive working environment is what makes people productive, and the ability to have people support you when you need it helps a lot. That said, we all wear too many hats. We need more people.
Yes.
We will get there, and we're getting there gradually. We have added some people, and it's been fantastic. We have some great new team members. We have some new educators I'm really excited about who are out on the museum floor just doing cool play things with kids.
That's awesome.
That's been really fun. So lots of good things happening, but it's a lot. I think a lot of us now, no matter what we're doing, are wearing a lot of hats. Look at you guys, right? Selling real estate and doing a podcast and running whatever else you are running.
Right.
People who get excited about things just tend to want to move all the time and get a lot of things done. Doesn't mean we don't need to step back and think about what's most important.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, I think you're doing a good job selling your work environment. I mean, people might see this and be like, I want to work there. Like, that sounds awesome.
AdvisorsExcel, no thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, come on now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
For the record, I love Advisors. They're wonderful sponsors.
Yeah, there you go. That's awesome.
They're good to us. One of many businesses we have supporting us. We have a really generous community in Topeka, generous businesses, generous individuals. We're a 501c3. We rely on donations to fund, especially those access programs. And the community has always been so incredibly generous to us. And of course, with the new expansion project, we're relying on a lot of that generosity to get the drywall up and the lights hooked up and those kinds of things. So it's just a great place to be a fundraiser. It's a great place to work in a nonprofit because people here are passionate about making Topeka better.
Yeah, it's amazing. How are you building the sunflower, the 2-story sunflower? Like, how is that going to happen?
We have a fabricator who is helping us with pieces of that. So we have a firm that we hired to do the engineering piece on that, because when we talk about anything that brings a child off the ground, the safety becomes incredibly important, right?
Yeah.
As you know, as a parent, it doesn't actually take much for kids to be able to get off the ground and start making poor choices.
As the dad, I'm usually the one getting them off of the ground.
There you go. Yeah. There's a role for that. That's really important and critical. So working with an engineer with experience on that kind of structure. And then the question becomes putting our local story onto that. And so that's where we're working with a local artist who's creating a mural that is going to be next to it to help tell that story. We're having dimensional sunflowers that are going to be built out of glass and metal and mixed media materials that are going to be a piece of that. And so it's like a lot of our exhibit experiences where there are pieces where we go to somebody, who's the best in the country at doing what they do and say, I need you to build this thing. And then we think, how do we make this thing Topeka? And how do we help this tell our local story to kids? And the Climber is a good example of that. There'll be lots of others too. I'm really excited about all the local artist partnerships in the new building. We've got some really cool mural work that's going to be happening and the chance to work with some, we have a lot of talented artists in Topeka. A lot of those folks bringing art into the space in a way that's going to help tell our story.
Have you ever had, you don't have to say like specifics, but just have you ever had like an exhibit where you have an idea, you're like, this is going to be amazing. And then you reach out to some people and they give you like, they do it or they build it or maybe just a mock-up, hopefully, because it's not that far into the process. You're like, nah, it's not what I thought.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to to do that anymore.
Yes.
Like,
absolutely.
I was picturing something better than that, Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Or we've gone further. We've got exhibits and they don't function well, or they don't do the same thing we wanted them to do in terms of play, right?
Sure.
Okay.
And that's where that watching process comes in. And so that's why people who've come to the Discovery Center for many years have seen some things kind of come and go because either it just doesn't function the way we want it to, or it becomes not as open-ended as we need it to be, or we just see something else and we're like, okay, this could bring the same concept in, right? Bernoulli blower. We used to have a Bernoulli blower that had ping pong balls. Really, really cool, right? We liked it. And as it started to wear out, we were like, oh, they have those now with beach balls. We want a bigger one, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. So that's just a continuous improvement. But yes, absolutely. We've gotten exhibits and we were like,
But that
to
just
say
goes
nay.
back to what you were talking about earlier. You know, we're okay failing. We want to fail. If we're not failing, we're
Right.
not growing.
That's exactly what it
And
is.
with exhibits, you know, being okay experimenting, doing things that maybe be out of the comfort zone,
Yep.
or let's give this a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's part of the process.
I love it. It's
Or
cool.
sometimes it works in a completely different way than we thought it would.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
not uncommon
Yeah.
either, where we just walk out onto the museum floor and say, I didn't know they were going to be doing that. Our current Imagination Playground area, which is these big blue building blocks. You've seen those at the museum, right? We put a whole wall up of these big blue building blocks, and we even put a lot of thought into
Like the
that
foam
wall.
ones that people
Yeah, the
build
foam
out,
ones.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we put a lot of thought into the wall because we didn't want kids to climb it, and so we even looked at things like, okay, we want to make sure there aren't handholds and footholds. We put a lot of thought into the wall. We put it up, and then we started noticing that kids were using the foam pipes that connect things to build off of the wall, and it became a building structure that we did not intend at all. Love those moments.
That's cool.
Love
Yeah.
those moments when kids will say, you had an idea about how you thought this exhibit was going to
Yeah.
function. We have a better idea
Yeah,
about how this
yeah.
exhibit is going to function. And I can think of dozens examples of that where we just kind of stand back and watch and say,
Yeah.
okay. So that's doing that
Huh.
now.
It's a
That's
little bit
okay.
like when you give your kid a present and they play with the box.
Yeah, that's exactly
like,
what it is.
What about the toy? Like, I
Yeah.
like the box. You're like, okay.
Boxes are great, by the
Yeah,
way. What a
boxes
great
are great.
open-ended building tool. We celebrate Cardboard Day, which is on the first Saturday in each October. It's
Wow.
International
Okay.
Cardboard Day.
No way.
It is, and we celebrate that with a cardboard creation day that is exactly as cool as you're
Oh, that's
thinking it
cool.
is.
That's funny.
That's
We just
awesome.
make things out of cardboard. Very exciting day.
I love it.
Cool. Well, we like to end our time on Topeka Insider with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
So we're going to hit you with them.
I'm ready.
First thing that comes to your mind, hit us back.
Okay.
Favorite local coffee shop?
Coffee bar.
Coffee bar?
17th and Washburn.
Yeah, right on the
Great.
corner.
Right around the corner. Yeah, great vibe. I live in College Hill neighborhood, so I love my
nice.
neighborhood coffee shops.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed to
Yeah.
be right in between
Yeah.
Circle and Coffee Bar. Love them both.
Yeah.
The Coffee Bar's got this really warm, chill vibe that I just really I enjoy a lot.
Love it. Love
Some
it,
good
love it, love
food.
it.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Okay. You're going to fix something up around the house.
Uh-huh.
Do you go to Lowe's, Menards, or Home Depot?
Ooh, I tend to go into the Home Depot,
Let's
but
go.
I'm also not too far away from the little hardware store. Okay, it used to be Roaches. I'm going to
Right,
say it
okay,
wrong. It's
yeah.
not anymore,
No.
right? So I apologize to the marketing professionals who are working on that hardware store that I don't know your correct
Waters,
name.
I think, right?
Waters,
I'm
thank
not sure.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Apologies to the Waters family
Yeah.
or corporation or whatever that is.
They've done a great job. It's really nice now.
They've spruced
Yeah.
it up, and I can
Yeah.
walk in. It's smaller, which I kind
Yeah.
of like, so that
Yeah.
I can get in there and not have
And
to
it's not
wander
as far.
through
More
acres.
personal.
Yes, of lumber. So that's my go-to. But of course, sometimes you got to go to the depot.
Yeah,
I hit
100%.
that up. Yeah,
Love it, love it, love it. What is something that Topeka is missing?
Ethiopian food.
Okay.
It's my
All right.
favorite. It's
That
my
was, you
hands
didn't
down.
even think about that.
I know.
did.
That was gut reaction.
It's like we prepped these questions and we did not.
Yes,
Yeah.
I absolutely. That is my go-to answer for that. It
Wow.
is my favorite type of food, and
Huh.
it is the one that we haven't had in Topeka. Topeka has great Thai food.
Mm-hmm.
Love Wheelbarrow, love Iron Rail, love all of our local taco places.
Right.
We excel at a lot of things. I
Yeah.
actually think we have pretty solid food at this point. But yes, like African, Ethiopian, one of my absolute favorites. So I drive over to Blue Nile in Kansas City at the city market. Love it. I want somebody to open an Ethiopian place. So if anyone out there knows anyone, I don't know.
You know somebody, Gabe? I do. You know somebody?
All
Okay,
right.
let's
do.
go. Are you gonna?
Canonia Touch African cuisine.
Oh, there's an actual place open.
Well, she does like a mobile food truck type thing.
See, there you go.
Say it again. What was it called?
Canonia Touch African cuisine.
I need to
Cool.
scope this
Wow.
out. Okay, I'm
All right.
excited.
So
Okay.
is Ethiopian? Is that where like beef tartare? Is that?
A little bit, and like the injera, which is like the bread. So it's like the spongy pancake bread that you
Yes,
use
yeah.
to eat
Gotcha.
everything.
Yeah.
And I can eat large quantities of just the injera all by itself. And yeah, it's fantastic.
I mean, you had me at spongy bread. That sounds amazing.
It's
So,
like a sourdough variation, but it's
Yeah.
totally unique. And you use it to eat every single thing that comes
yes.
with the Ethiopian
It's
food.
it's like hands, right? You're
Yes.
using your hands a lot and
Yeah.
dipping and
Eating with your hands, absolutely. So
Cool.
yeah, that's my first answer. Now I should say things like, quality, affordable childcare. Also true.
yeah. Which you are solving apparently. yeah.
Also
working
true.
on it,
yeah.
Remember how I just talked about how important it is to keep your brand top of mind? And
Yeah.
here I am, like, you know what I want?
Well,
Some
this is
really
mixing,
delicious.
This is mixing
chicken.
personal and business. It doesn't have to be
Here for
business.
it.
Yeah.
Love it.
You know what? Topeka is such a great community. We deserve quality, affordable childcare and Ethiopian food.
Yes.
food.
Both.
Yes.
We need both.
Or Ethiopian childcare, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, I think there's something there.
Good one, John. Good one. How many potholes did you hit on your way over to us today?
No more than 2. You know, they're not doing too bad. Gage right now. Gage did all that improvement, and
Gage
since of
isn't
course,
bad.
since I travel that mostly.
Oh, 'cause you probably came here from the Discovery Center.
I came here from the Discovery Center, so I have to say the Discovery Center to studio route. You'll be gratified to know.
Yes.
Mostly pothole
It's a clear
free.
route. Yeah,
You're so quick-witted.
We-
I love it.
it is. It's very true.
We have our current exhibit, which will be closed by the time this airs, but folks know we bring in lots of new things. But it's about the Inside Out movies, and if you've seen the Inside Out movies, you know that there's this concept of core memories, and the core memories can have anger
Like
or
bowling
sadness
balls.
or joy. So that's built in the exhibit. Kids have the opportunity to write down on paper a memory that they're having or a thought that they're having, and they get to decide what color then the orb is going to be.
Cool.
That's
So
cool.
I walked into that exhibit one day at the end, and we always do look carefully at that exhibit because whenever you give children the opportunity to write things, you just never know, right? So
Right.
you had to check that stuff over.
Tread lightly.
A parent had clearly participated in it, and that parent had done an entire row of about 15 red memories, which are the anger memories. And on each card, the parent had just written the name of a Topeka road that was under construction at the time. And I was like, one, who did this?
Yeah.
Also, funniest thing I had ever seen. And I loved the fact that like a parent and child would have been in there, and that parent is just using that moment to express some feelings.
Yeah.
That's great play.
I just imagine like the parent is so engrossed, the kid is on the opposite side of the entire building,
Exactly.
because they're so
Right on
like
the
what
pirate.
where'd my kid go?
Playing
They're,
cardboard.
they're
Yeah.
just in their feelings in
Yeah.
that moment.
that's
Oh my
funny.
gosh, it was great.
Someone has to know.
Go to date night in Topeka. What are you doing? What's going on?
Oh, First Friday. So
you
my
go.
husband, Matt, is a native Topekan. Also,
Okay.
we have a lot of fun enjoying this city. We love First Friday
Yeah.
in Nodo. You know, if we get out there really early, you can get a table at the wheelbarrow. But of course, otherwise you're going to have to
yeah.
elbow people to
Right.
make that happen. So sometimes
Yeah.
we'll grab dinner somewhere else. But that's always going to be a good time just because it's open. You get to wander around.
Walk
you see people you
around.
know.
Yeah.
So we love that. We also love a good musical. So Topeka Civic is a go-to for
Yeah.
us. We're always excited about that. And
Let's go.
we'd love more traveling Broadway to come to Topeka. We don't get as much, but
I know.
Yeah.
when we do, we love that.
My kid was in a musical.
What musical?
It was like one for like preschool kids.
Oh, yeah.
So like they were dressed up as cats. There was
I
like
love
4
this.
kids. Actually, it wasn't a musical. It was just a play.
That's
So
okay.
I misspoke, but yeah, it was like, yeah, he's gonna do it again.
When they're that age, it's always kind of a musical. My kids have done
Yeah,
Topeka.
exactly.
The kids have done Topeka Civic Theater camp for many years now. They have
Nice.
so much fun, and that is a whole thing. They did Lion King last year as a musical.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
My child, my 7-year-old, has never been more excited as the day he came home and said he was cast as Pumbaa, the warthog who
Nice.
farts.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think all of his theatrical dreams were achieved by that casting.
Yeah.
So
That's
awesome.
yeah, Topeka Civic always giving kids those
Wow.
opportunities. Love it.
That reminds me of when my oldest first saw Lion King.
Yes.
For some reason, you know, the like most traumatic scene
Oh yes.
in the
yeah.
in the movie.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler
listeners.
alert. Mufasa dies.
He doesn't
and-
make it.
But the specific part where he's climbing up the walls and
Oh,
then
yeah.
Scar like grabs his arms
Whew.
and says, "Long live the king."
Yeah.
That specific scene
Uh-huh.
somehow got lodged in his brain in a non-traumatic way, and he just wanted to reenact it all the time. And so he'd be like, honestly, it's been like 4 years now, so I can't remember exactly what he would say, but we would somehow get to where we would switch roles, and he would be like on the couch, and I'd be the one climbing on the couch, and he would just grab my arms and he'd say, "Long live the king," and I'd be like, "Ah!" And then I would just be like, should I be worried? You know, like that this is the one scene he wants to reenact over and over and over. And we'd switch roles. He'd be like, okay, now I'm going to be Mufasa. I'd be like, should I be nervous about this? You know?
You know, at the Discovery Center, we know that dramatic play is a great way to work out stuff. So I think that it was totally developmentally appropriate. Also, as a parent, I would
it's
have the
great
same
for you,
questions.
John.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great for you.
Yeah.
For you.
I would have the same thoughts. Again, kids do weird stuff, man.
Yeah.
They do weird
Like,
stuff.
is he going to be talking about this in therapy someday? Like, oh man, the movie Lion King just ruined me.
apparently, you know, I think as grown-ups, we understood that scene in a way that it sounds like he totally did not, right? Which is
Yeah,
interesting.
apparently,
So
yeah.
you're ascribing
Yeah.
meaning to it as a grown-up.
That's probably true. We'll have to watch it again and see if he like gets it for the first time now or something, you know?
By all means, make sure that trauma sets in.
Let's drive this deeper.
Final question.
Okay.
Where can listeners and viewers find the Discovery Center at? Are you on social media? Is the best way to get to learn what you guys are doing?
We're on all the things, but kansasdiscovery.org is a great place, our website, to get information about what's happening at the Discovery Center, our events calendar, our free at-home science activities. Well, it'll give you a little taste of Discovery Center at home, Discovery at Home. We have 165 of those online for free. So all that is at kansasdiscovery.org. And of course, your favorite social media platform, Facebook, TikTok, whatever we're calling Twitter these days. It's hard for me to keep track. That stuff.
Are you on Reddit?
We are not on Reddit.
I'm kidding.
Oh man, should we be? That would be a disaster.
Yeah.
Reddit needs
Pinterest.
us.
Yeah.
Pinterest, yes. We a while back. I don't know what's terribly active, but
MySpace.
Pinterest was there for a while. Oh, is MySpace still active? Can we
I
be
think
on MySpace?
technically it's still up.
Okay.
We certainly don't have one at the
Like
Topeka
6 years
Insider.
ago, I was just curious and I went back and found my old thing.
I hope
but-
it still played whatever song you were excited
Yeah,
about
exactly,
at the time.
yeah.
So yes, your favorite social media platform. I mentioned our email newsletter. That's a wonderful way to keep up. And we always do exhibit announcements and things like that first to our email newsletter subscribers. So if you're somebody, I mean, obviously your listeners, they're listening to Topeka Insider. They want to be the first to know. They want the
right.
scoop.
Right.
That's right.
They're going to want some of that email newsletter action. They're going to want to get that in their inbox so that they can get announcements
Yeah, we
first.
should put
Or
that
tens
in
of
the-
followers.
We should put that in the maybe the description of the episode or something.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Laura, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much for having
This was
me.
so fun.
This
Super
was
fun.
so much fun. Almost as fun as a day at the Discovery Center.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Not
almost
quite.
there.
Really, really close though.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks so much
I
for
will
having
say
me.
you've just been a joy. You're so fun to talk to. like he said, you're so witty. I mean,
Yep.
you must be contributing to the work environment.
Oh,
there, so.
yeah.
That's what I say.
Yeah.
You know, let's send that message to my coworkers. Thank you so much for having me, and also for everything you're doing for Topeka. I love Topeka stories, and I love the opportunity to hear more and learn more about this awesome community we're in. So thank you for the awesome podcast, and I'll keep tuning in.
All
Absolutely.
right.
Thank you.